Hey everybody, what's up? This is a Lost review for episode 411 titled Cabin Fever. So if you're not a Lost fan, you can leave. I'm going to talk openly and freely. There's going to be spoilers about this episode, so just leave a comment, say you were here. Okay, there's a lot to talk about on this episode, so let's get to it. First of all, I wanted to thank AndyPliskin for doing the guest review last week. Andy really stood up for me. He made it my style. I gave you guys something to discuss, and thanks a lot to Andy, and go check him out in the link over here. Okay, this episode had a lot going on. It wasn't one of my favorite episodes, only because I felt like there were three storylines that happened. You had the flashback, you had the island, you had the freighter, and then you even had the part on the island at the end with Jack and Juliet and stuff like that. There was a lot of action, a lot that happened, so it was a very full episode that just gave a lot of questions. So there's no way I can really do this without giving a recap of it, and that's not necessarily what I want to do. So I jotted down a ton of notes. And I'm going to try to get over this. I'm going to group this in a couple ways. First thing I want to talk about was John Locke's flashback. This was kind of his story about how he came to be. We saw his mom got hit by a car when she was pregnant with him. I'm wondering who hit her with the car. I think within the flashback, there's some time traveling thing happening. Right when he was born, and it would be her mom, Locke's mom said, "I don't want to hold him." Her mom, so Locke's grandma, gets a cigarette out, starts to light it up, and the nurse says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, there's no smoking in here." Another smoking reference, just like last week with the smoke detector. The second they said no smoking, Richard Alpert shows up. He's the guy with the dark hair. He's shown up in many flashbacks. This flashback was about 40, 50 years old, and he looks exactly the same. I used to think Richard Alpert was timeless. But now I'm beginning to think, with the whole element of time travel they're showing, that maybe he can jump back in time to make things happen. Because then he shows up a little bit later when Locke was like, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years old, and gives him those things. He gave him some sand, a knife, a compass, the comic book. Asked them, "Did these belong to you?" So what's that all about? And the fact that he picked the knife, and is that the same knife that Locke used to kill the boar early on in the series? I think you're gonna have to excuse this fan on this computer. They ran an update, and suddenly the fan is kicking in. So I just have to. It kicks in at 2.5 minutes every time. Okay, so there was sand. He chose the sand, and there was a comic book. Now, does that comic book have polar bears in it? I don't think it was the same one that Walt looked at on the island, but there was something on the comic book. I forget exactly what it said, but it said something like Lost Paradise or Lost Island or Island Paradise, or there was some reference to an island or something on that comic book. He also, when we saw his flashback when he was in high school and he met with the guidance counselor said that they wanted him to, he was a special student at some school, and Mr. Alpert got a hold of him. Mr. Alpert, that's Richard Alpert. So this guy has been going, somehow either existing or going back in time, to find John, who they keep saying is special. It sounded like he was fighting off disease and all that when he was a preemie, but his life took such a horrible turn in the wheelchair. So then, with the wheelchair, the orderly pushes him around. It's Abaddon. We've seen him before. He's the guy kind of in charge of Naomi, Frank, all those people. So again, Abaddon didn't look like he changed. Abaddon met up with Hurely in the beginning of the season. So what's that all about? Are these people timeless, or are they traveling back in time and jumping around? Time definitely seems to be a factor now more than anything. Okay, then I'm going to jump over to the freighter. Wow. First of all, we see this Carmy guy who's just turning into a real badass. And I couldn't believe, he sounds like he's working for Widmore more so than the captain was. And when he steals the key from him, I noticed that they opened it up and there were a bunch of plans with the Dharma Initiative logo on it, and he said that that he could find where Ben was at all times. So do they have a way to jump through time and have records of what Ben's doing? Or did they are they kind of trying to reinitiate the Dharma Initiative through Widmore? That's what I think it is. I think Widmore originally was in charge of the Dharma Initiative, and he's trying to get it back and pay Ben back for what Ben did. I think this is all about Dharma. Um, okay, we saw they got that SOS message, which we saw last week, saying that they found the doctor dead, or with his throat slit. The doc was still alive, and then Carmy comes and kills him. So I spent about 5 minutes in my mind trying to figure out what was going on with the timeline, because it looks like actually the stuff on the island would take place about 12 hours in the future of the boat, of the freighter. What's the deal? What did the Carmy have on his arm? Was that some detonation device? Was that... I don't know. I have no idea what that was. I'd like to hear what people thought. And the big thing for me was when he tried to shoot Michael and the gun didn't go off. Remember in episode 408 with Michael, the Meet Kevin Johnson episode, the gun didn't go off. It's like the island wants Michael to live, and it's making it happen. And he just said, "Fix my gun," Carmy did to the captain. And then ironically, he fixes it and kills the captain. So there was, let's see, that's all I wanted to touch on the freighter. Other than Saeed takes off to pick the people up to bring them back to the freighter, which I think is odd. Why would you bring them back? The freighter seems just as dangerous as the island. It looks like they're going to go on the island and torch the hell out of it, which was cool. I mean, between the cabin, which I'm going to talk about, and seeing what they have planned for the island, this whole episode, it's taking a darker turn. Okay, the island. Benjamin Linus seems to be losing his purpose. He seemed to give it up. Now, maybe he's just feeling sad, because of his daughter. But it seems like Locke has finally taken over. Like the island is done with Ben, and Ben realizes it. And Ben, what does he say? He says, "Karma is a fickle bitch." That was awesome. Locke seems to be getting his purpose back now that he's going through the jungle and doing all this stuff, versus being trying to be a leader. For now that he's just kind of hunting and he's on a mission, he does great again. How cool was the Hurley Ben moment with the candy bar? I thought for sure Benjamin was going to put Hurley down and say, "You're a disgusting pig," or something like that, but instead Hurley looks at him with a little sympathy. That's what we all love about Hurley. That was cool. That was my favorite scene in the episode. Okay, we get to the cabin, which now Ben wants nothing to do with Jacob. Go in the cabin, and that creeped me out. That whole scene creeped me out. But seeing Christian Shepherd in there, who I think is dead, I think he's a materialization of a ghost or something on the island. And Claire was there. And she's kind of out of it. I think Claire is dead. And if I didn't think she was dead before, just the way she was talking and she was so nonchalant about Aaron, I think Claire died in that explosion last episode. And I think the reason, Miles can see her because he's a ghost talker. He can talk to ghosts. Why Sawyer can talk to her or see her or the rest of them, I don't know. But I bet they can all see Christian Shepherd maybe too. But I think she died. I think that's why she talked. You said Charlie? And now, okay, he finds the cabin through, I forget the guy's name, the guy with the Dharma thing chopping down the trees, and that seemed like that was on a loop. And that was very cool to go back to that pit with all those bodies and look for it. And to see how different the power play was. That this was the exact... Well, it was like the second or third last episode last season where Ben shot Locke in the back, and now here Ben is following Locke around in the same location. It's like it came full circle. So, very cool episode, a lot going on. I know I missed a lot. Thanks for everybody for watching. My only theory is there's some serious time travel happening with Alpert and Abaddon. Somebody I heard said Abaddon they think might be Walt grown up jumping back in time. So what's the deal? They know that Locke is special. What's going on? They knew this from the day he was born already. So that's all for now. Talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening. Take it easy. Bye.